Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Quantum Alignment Show. My name's Alana Heim, and this class today we're going to cover 3 keys to creating your value. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. I've got some slides that I'm going to show you. Okay, you all should be able to see that. You can see that? Awesome. And so I have Cindy with me here today, and she's going to be kind of just popping in if there's questions, if you guys have comments, or you want to share it live on Facebook, then we can have this be more interactive. So just to make sure you're in the right place, I have 2 questions for you. Do you struggle with knowing your value? Or I'm wondering if you struggle with knowing your value. And the other, do you find it challenging to create your value out in the world? And for more the open sacral types, I'm wondering if you feel that challenge with creating your value out in the world. And if you said yes to either of those, whether you're a defined sacral or an undefined, then you're in the right place. And this is the show for you. And so as the guest host, my name's Alana Heim, and I am a 1-3 emotional projector. So just so you know a little bit about me, I also have a husband who's a projector. I have my daughter Taylor, who's a projector, and then my twins, Hazel and Hunter, are 4 and they're generators. And so for me, there's this level of my background starting out being more in the CPA realm, the financial world, and really knowing that there was something missing. So I didn't always know human design, but once I found it, it really just helped me to understand more of who I am and who I'm here to be in the world. And so having spent over 16 years, as I say, tethered to the public accounting industry, I really wasn't living my purpose and creating my value in the way that I'm here. There was more potential. And spending 8+ hours a day, kind of feeling like I was chained to a desk when I'm supposed to be more this inspirational person getting out there and guiding, something was missing. And the human design really helped me to see that piece. And so my purpose and my value wasn't in creating tax returns or providing just strictly that financial advice. And what I've realized is that ultimately it's this level of creating value through others, helping them to become more sustainable and financially sustainable in their own way. Because as you can see in my chart, I'm probably different in design than you are. Maybe we have similarities. Maybe there's other pieces that kind of jump out at you, and you can see that there's a lot of this openness in the chart. And I like to bring that into my work and being able to experience and share. And so really what I want for you guys in this particular class, I want you to be able to find your value and to recognize maybe where it is that you're not sharing your value because you're still learning and learning who you are and trying to figure that out. So with that, if you guys are ready, we'll get started. So this first key is create your purpose. So in creating your value, there's a big piece here with creating your purpose. And so I want to highlight that because we know we have purpose, and we all do. You have it, and the cool piece is human design actually helps you to see it more in a visual way. And you're not limited by the chart, and even what this chart tells you, that's only a small piece of the experiences that you get to bring in to living out your purpose. Now, some of us are more investigative. Others are more observational, maybe we're social, experiential, experimental. All of that helps us to create our purpose. We're not here to just find it. We're here to literally make it. And that's why we chose to be here, so that we get to create this purpose. And we get confused sometimes because with the financial piece, we think our purpose is to earn money. And that's never our purpose. That's just a part of the puzzle. That's just another energy that allows us to maybe have more, do more, but it isn't the be more. And I know, for example, when I was quitting my job, I knew that I had a bigger purpose. And I just wasn't quite sure, and I was still looking to kind of create that. And my dad said, no, your purpose is this, to provide for your family. Your purpose is to pay for this and support them. And for me, it was that level of, no, it's not. There's so much more. I'm here to heal and guide the world. As a projector, that's an innate part of me. And it is for the other projectors and the other energy types. There's another inner sense for you that you're really here to create something. And so I encourage you and highly recommend that you dream big and follow your intuition. And sometimes that's easier said than done, because we kind of have to break away from old ways of being and rewriting the story. And you've heard Karen talk a lot about rewriting our story, and that was just even in this week's evolution report. So we're all rewriting our story, and we're all rewriting even our purpose and recreating it in some way. And so that means along the way during the journey, we get to develop our talents, our skills, our gifts, all of those pieces that you can kind of see in the chart, and you get to create from that place and create what you really love. So the reason why we need to create our purpose is because this is your life and you're the creator. And the purpose is really the why. It points you down that road where there's more fulfillment and there's more fun and more accomplishment. So let's look at creating by type. And so this is really strategy, looking at strategy for each of the 5 types. And I've kind of put it more into the creating side, since that's what we're really focusing on, creating your value. So for manifestors, there's this level of innate creativity. You're very creative anyway. And so it's a level of taking creative action once you've informed the people that it may affect. So the manifesting generators, you're kind of the blend between the manifestor and the generator. So you have this 2-part creative kind of theme. So you're going to be more creative once it's sparked. Like there's this creativity that's sparked when you respond to anything outside of yourself. And once you get that, once you're able to respond and it feels really good, maybe you respond with the because it feels really good. Now you get to be that manifestor and you get to get out there and create that value. And so this is the piece where, again, you really need to inform the people who may be affected. Let them in on where you're going. And sometimes that can feel hard because people will try and tell you, no, you can't do that. And the reality is once you get to that place, that's your plan, that's your purpose, that's where you're going. And you are going to create. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in key number 2. But for the generators, your creativity is sparked when you respond to anything outside of yourself. So you're constantly wondering what feels right and looking for following that strategy and that creating by type. Projectors, and I've kind of put it as twofold because there's a level of, again, it depends on what feels right for you. So as projectors, you get to create while you're waiting. And it feels like, oh, I have to wait, and what is this invitation or this recognition piece? But when you know what you want and you're creating, you're actually getting to open yourself up to those possibilities and those opportunities showing up. So you can create while you're waiting. Or once you get that recognition, maybe that helps you to be able to create a little bit more of your own value and share that with people. And so similarly with reflectors, it's this level of you can also be creating while you're waiting for those 29 days. Or once you've had enough time and maybe the right decision or the right thing happens for you, then you may have more energy in alignment that allows you to create. So we're always in this creative flow. And although we also see a lot of creativity in the solar plexus, I'm not going to focus so much on that specifically. I'm just going to focus on more of this innate creativity, the possibilities, and what we can do to really help that with our own value. And so, let me see here real quick if I had any other examples. Yeah, so this is a big piece. And so going back to it being that first key and knowing here that you're here to create your purpose. And I want to share with you about my financially centered class more at the end. But that's where in that program, I'm going to also be helping you to align more financially with the why or the purpose piece of why it's really important for you to have that key. So the second key is recognize your choice in the creative process. Oh, somebody said there's no screen right now. So can you see my slides?
I can see your slides, and I'm seeing them on Facebook.
Okay.
Aylin, you may want to, if you're not seeing it, all good. Sue says it's all good here.
Okay.
I would just recommend if you're not seeing it, maybe to go out and come back in. But okay. Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah. And if you guys have any other comments or can't see something or need clarification, just post and let us know, and I can answer that for you. So key number 2 is recognize your choice in the creative process. So this is a big part, and sometimes we forget this and we think, wait, I have choice? Yes, we all have choice. And that's really how Karen teaches human design. That's how I really feel it resonates with me, that there's always choice. And there's this level of choice comes from within the authority in the chart. And so when we're looking at what feels right, we're listening to where inside of us. We're not necessarily in our heads, although that's the conditioned way of following the creative process, is you have to be in your head and you have to stop and think about things and figure out the next steps. But what I'm talking about is literally dropping into your body and what feels right. And for some people, there is an emotional quality that relates. For others, it's the gut instinct. And so it's that authoritative part in the chart. And I put here for kind of a different spin on what does it mean? What's the definition for decision? Because decision, we're really cutting off a possible solution or an option. And so when you can start to think, okay, because we're narrowing in on what's correct, what feels right. And sometimes we like to think there's only black and white and it's only either or, 2 choices. Sometimes there's so many. And our brain can only process, to break it down and to cut off these possibilities. But are we looking at all of the possibilities? Are we looking at all of the choices that are there for us? And sometimes we think we are, but sometimes we're not asking the right question or looking to solve the right problem. And so in this way, the choice is really about you looking at yourself, figuring out, what am I here to do? And that there's power within this. And within this, you actually can create more value. Because when you're in alignment with who you are and the choices you make, you're now sharing with the world the value you bring to the table. And that's really kind of a fun piece and a different way to see just how powerful you are. And so then in this, if we look a little bit more at the authority piece, and it's this level of inner authority. And most everyone has inner authority, but you'll see that I also have listed here none. So we've got different ways of making decisions. We have different ways of kind of narrowing down the solution until we get to the one. But when we can actually bring in the feeling of what is correct for us, and we're listening to our inner energies that are helping us, we know, usually without hesitation, what that decision needs to be. Again, emotional is going to take a little longer. So if we look at the ego, this is coming from that will center, which is a very big place in the chart that's all about value. But they're actually making a decision from what feels right and coming from that place in their heart. For the sacral people, so all of my generators, manifesting generators that are watching and or watching the replay, you're always listening to your gut response. it is a big part of who you are. Now, sometimes you're going to have kind of crossovers and have definition of, let's say, the sacral and the emotional. I want you to look at your chart to know what your definition tells you. So if you're truly just pure sacral and you have the spleen and the emotional solar plexus undefined, you're literally going to need those yes-no questions to help you to know what your truth is, what your decision is. And so for most generator types, it's just the 3420 that has this little difference. But for most of you, a yes is an uh-huh, and a no is an uh-uh. But I want to remind you that a no is usually more that it's not right timing. It's not always a hard no. And the more that you can see and really listen to what feels right for you in that moment, that's going to help you to know what choice you're making in your creative process. Do you want to create a business? If there's a part of you that's like, then that's where you're wanting to go, and you're going to continue to follow the process. But if there's a part of you that says, it doesn't mean it's a forever no. You can keep coming back to it and re-asking and seeing what feels right and if timing is correct for you. For those who have the self-authority, this is really an important piece for you to recognize and remember. You need to hear your truth. You have to talk it out. If there's any part of you that is conditioned to think, well, I have to think about it, or I need to process, or I need to be alone, if you're alone, still talk it out by yourself. Once you hear this information coming out, the truth is there for you to have the awareness and be able to know what your decision is. And this isn't for everyone. Yes.
I had a question that came up on Facebook, and you may have kind of answered it, but just to be clear, Megan asks on Facebook, I'm a 3/5 mental projector with no authority. Would you recommend waiting the 29 days?
So you can, in the interim, still talk out loud. Still talk, because you're going to be processing and having that projector quality. We need to hear our truth. So that's going to be really helpful. And it's for the bigger decisions. You know, if you already have mapped out where you want to go and you already have this vision of something that you really want, you're going to be able to make a decision that much faster. But it's those pieces of, you know, maybe it's quitting a job and it's this really big decision that's in front of you. There's a level of you want to make sure that you've gone through all the energies that the moon's going to bring you through that lunar cycle to make sure if it feels right. And having people who are very supportive and are good listeners who can just kind of be that sounding board for you is also going to be helpful through the process. So it's not a level of just go wait 29 days by yourself in a quiet place. No, talking it out is still really going to be helpful and giving you new perspective, new energies that are going to give you the insight that's going to help you to feel through and make the decision that feels right for you. Hopefully that's helpful, Megan. So when we're talking about the solar plexus, this is the piece where there's a lot of clarity and time that's needed. This is not an authority that can make a decision really, really quickly. Although, same as I just said to Megan, there's a quality of, you know, sometimes, especially if you're more tribal and your wave is, it doesn't swing so much. There's a level of if you already know what you want and you're going after it, the decision might be a little faster. You might be able to need less time, let's say, to process. So there's this understanding that you are on a ride. You are literally riding an emotional wave that just needs that time, needs that clarity. And this is a big piece of the creative process, is this emotional energy. So if you have it defined, it's there and you always have to write it. If you have it undefined, you're going to pick it up from other people and be able to use it. And you might need a little bit more time to process because creativity is a process and a flow. So we've got three. Oh, go ahead.
We got a couple of questions that came in. I don't know if you want to finish the slide and take the questions, or would you like to take the questions right now? It's totally up to you.
We have just a couple more that I can finish, and then we can do a couple more questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So the solar plexus has these 3 different types of waves, and I've just listed them here just so, again, if you have your chart with you and you can look at it, and maybe this just gives you a little bit more understanding of which ride you're on emotionally. Individually, you're going to see the 3955 from the root to the solar plexus, and then the solar plexus to the throat with the 1222, the kind of inside channel. That's a very individual wave. So there's lots of highs and lows, and you're going to be kind of up and down, and riding the wave depending on the frequency and how often depends on kind of where you are, how in alignment you are with your chart too. So tribally, we have 3 different channels. And so those ones I've listed here, the 1949, and then we've got kind of the center one is the 59.6, and then the 3740. And so those are just kind of small undulations. It's a pretty steady emotional ride. However, if something happens to kind of disrupt that relationship, something within a tribe, a community, I find even for myself, I have the 3740, that there's still a level of unexpected surprises that usually can still cause me to be a little unraveled if something happens and I wasn't really kind of planning on it. Then emotionally, I can get out of whack. And so this is where the emotions kind of go a little chaotic. So if something happens, we are, maybe it's a little harder to sleep and eat and work and think, and just all kinds of things happen. And so what I've really noticed, the more that you're in that emotional wave, the more you actually can see and have so much more awareness of what feels right, and what doesn't work, or what you want to let go of, because the emotion is showing you what no longer serves you. The collective are those outside channels. So going from the root, we've got the 4130, and then we go up the 3635. And so that's a collective wave. It's a very sensing, experiential type of energy. And this is where you're kind of happy and plummet, and then it might take a little bit to get back to that place and continue the wave. So lots of time needed for this awareness center to be able to have this understanding of what your decision is. The spleen, very instinctive. This is a know in the moment kind of truth. It also is that awareness, but it's an awareness right now. And so as you start to notice yourself, and maybe there's other people in your life and they have different authorities, you're going to have more of an understanding of what their creative process is and how they make decisions. And it helps you to have so much more clarity in knowing that if you're instinctive, but a partner or a friend or a child is not, and they're emotional, that would it be okay to give them the time and the space that they need to truly process their decision so that they can be their creative self and give the value they're here to bring. And I know I mentioned briefly the nun, so that's just the waiting piece. And I know someone said, did you cover ego? I did. Ego is the very first one, and so this is acting from the heart, from that will center, and really feeling in your heart what's correct, and making a decision from that place. And so,
okay, yeah. So the first question that came in on Zoom versus from Sue. So as a generator with emotional authority, I'm not really looking for the sacral sounds?
You still can, but you're going to have to ask a few times during your wave, through your creative process, the emotional wave.
Well, she's saying she has one of each, the individual, tribal, and collective. So she has all 3 emotional waves.
So the thing for you to recognize is what is your emotional process. Your frequency of each wave is going to be different. So sometimes you could be kind of in a high and maybe also happy, but you could be plummeting and be high. So it's a level of really giving yourself enough time. You can't rush it. And helping to ask kind of those sacral questions throughout is going to give you an idea. But what you're looking for is kind of going through the eye of the storm. You're in the center, you've been up, you've been down, and through it all you have the same resounding yes. If there's a yes, if there's a no, if there's any point where they don't match, then for you, it's probably a no for right now, because you really want to feel good. And if there's any confusion, then you've either not given yourself enough time, or it really just doesn't feel correct for you.
And we had some questions come in on Facebook. First, Megan, that was the first question you answered, said, yes, that helped, thank you.
Okay.
Alicia says she's a 6'2" manifesting generator with a solar plexus. She has tribal channels, individual and collective gates that are active. Do they all play a part in the emotional wave? She feels like they do.
And the question then for me to you is, who are you with? What energies you're going to be picking up that could potentially create the electromagnetics or give you the other energy that you kind of have these hanging gates. So I know if we kind of just look back at my chart here, you'll see I have a lot of energies off the solar plexus. So I have the one channel, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4 other gates hanging off. And then even this 19, this 49 is another potential for me to pick up with others. So emotionally, I feel pretty steady. But more and more with the awareness, I can feel when I'm with others, especially, let's say, in groups or live interaction or, networking or just being in a room full of people, that sometimes there's emotions that start to come up and I can tell they're not necessarily mine. So there's a quality of you can pick up from other people. And so if you're around someone in your home, within your family, there are those dynamics in relationships where suddenly we do feel emotions and they may not actually belong to us, but we may be linking into someone, picking up their energy and or creating it with that person.
So Alicia commented on your answer. So the gates are impacted by others and the channels are hers?
The channel is going to be her consistent energy. You're still going to have a potential consistent way of expressing these gates. However, it depends on the energies you're connecting with. Potentially, if you connect with someone who has the full channel, your energy is going to feel theirs and not necessarily your own. The cool part is if you have a true electromagnetic and you let's just say you have the 35 and I have the 36. Together, we now get to experience this channel in this new kind of creative, fun way that we don't normally get to experience it by ourselves. Is that helpful? Is there any other questions?
Sorry, I muted myself and didn't realize. If you ask Jamie, I do that a lot. For me, Marlene on Facebook says, for me, a manifesting generator 3-1, I'm building my product. Can I have all these parts defined except the root bottom of the chart? I'm trying to find new ways to acquire clients, but now I'm a little weary that I have my own idea of a thing to do. Usually I find someone to give me feedback, but now I'm wondering if I need to be invited to go down this path. It's the second time it came up in my thoughts to take this approach. Guess I'm not sure what I'm waiting for or what my next step is after this idea, this creativity, my adding.
Okay, so what was the type again?
Manifesting generator.
And you said, I was confused at the part, she has all parts of...
Her only open center is the root, is the way I'm understanding it, because she says, I have all parts defined except the root.
Okay.
So she's emotionally defined. And so she's wondering if she has, her question is, she's wondering, again, manifesting generator, if she needs to be invited to go down this path. It's the second time this has come into her thoughts to take the approach of being invited. She's not sure what she's waiting for or what her next step is after the idea.
Okay, so have you already asked yourself the question if you would like to pursue this idea so that you can have your sacral respond? because we want to go back and make sure that you're honoring the strategy piece. That are you responding to something outside of yourself? And when you're then recognizing that, ooh, yes, I want to respond, for you, the secondary piece is this inner authority. So now you're coming into using your sacral, but also riding the wave and making sure that everything feels correct. So it's not necessarily a level of waiting for an invitation. If you've already had something outside of yourself trigger, at that point, you're now processing, you're envisioning, you're riding the wave to find the creative side of, yes, is this correct? Yes, is this right timing? Or maybe not right now. And so there's these different levels of what you're trying to make happen. But again, you can't push from the beginning. You really have to have it be this response piece. And once you get to that place where it's an absolutely resounding or, it's a yes, then you get to go full on out in your creative process. And you get to go create whatever it is, the business of your dreams, the things that you see that really get you going. That's the piece that's really important for you to recognize.
Okay, I'm going to go back to Zoom. So Sue had a follow-on. She said, surely it doesn't mean that the spleen is always right, though. My husband with splenic authority makes decisions really quickly, but won't look at what information might be missing.
And if you're able to, I'm curious to know what authority, like what type is he? Is he a sacral type or an undefined sacral type?
While we're waiting for, I'm trying to see if
he's
still
a sacral. Okay, so for him, it's still, because it's all about timing with the spleen, and you're getting this little nudge, and this nudge it's giving you this instinctive piece of information that feels right. Now, for him, it's still a quality of he can ask himself yes or no, or have somebody kind of ask that yes or no question to really ensure that, does this feel correct? To kind of engage the sacral a little bit. Let me look real quick again. Is it always the right decision? It's more about what feels right for you. So have we looked at all parts of all the pieces? When you're splenic, if you stop to get in your head and try and figure out, have I thought of everything? Then you're already overriding the splenic operation. You're kind of already overriding, and you're getting lost in all the what ifs. What about this right timing and money, and can I get time off, and just all these different things, and we're up in our head. So for him, it's a very internal process of listening to the spleen, and his yes and what feels right for him might not make sense to you or feel right for you, but this is his journey, and maybe this really does give him the next opportunity that's going to show up, and as a generator type, he now gets to respond to. And these are the unknown pieces that we sometimes miss when we try and overthink it, if that makes sense.
She had a follow-on comment. Did you see it? So if it's something I'm asking for his opinion, he is answering for himself?
He's going to be answering more from what feels right for him. He may take into consideration how it could apply to him. But remember, anytime we're asking what other people think, it's merely their process. It's their opinion. It's what they would do. And sometimes that's not what you need or what he needs. It's a level of finding clarity with what you need. And that's the part with when it comes to understanding our decision making, we can easily get lost in, well, what does the world want me to do? And is this best for me? Is this what I want? But my husband said to do this instead, and so said I should do this. Suddenly we're getting further and further from the fact that you have choice. And it's your process. It's your decision. And when you can actually listen in the chart and understand your journey, of making that decision that feels right for you. Now you can start to really understand that we are in this place of value, and it's not ego-based. You're not doing it because you don't want to listen to somebody else. You're coming into what is correct for you and your purpose that you're creating, the value you're here to show in the world. And if you're being influenced by others and listening and doing based on them, you're not being true to yourself. Hopefully that helps.
Before we go, Marilyn, again, the manifesting generator, continued her, I'm building my product. Can I, okay, nope, that's not it. She had a follow-up, and I think I lost it on, oh, there it is. Yes, she does want to pursue it. It feels like a great innovation idea based on the market, news, and trends. So I was thinking to just figure out who to talk to about it. Now that it's coming back, it feels like the right time to do the initial conversation. To further confirm the market, your response was great for me to understand the reprocessing. Finally, I got that part. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And did you want, I see two more questions. Did you want to take the questions, or did you want to go back to, I don't know if you have more content that you want to make sure that you present before?
Yeah, we can do the question, because then we'll wrap up this second key and we can move on to the third key.
Okay. So both Facebook and Kelsey is on both Facebook and Zoom. Is this why my family is so emotionally charged? The 5 of us all together have all 3 channels full. We complete each other in this aspect, the 1949, the 3955, and the 4130.
Yes.
So that's what you would say?
Yes. So there's going to be a lot of emotional energy in your family, and especially when you guys are all together. And so you're going to be feeling kind of the throes of the emotions. But remember that emotions allow the creative process to continue. So when somebody is on a lower wave and we say they're emotional or dramatic or they're crying or all these negative attributes to emotions that are not really showing the beauty of what this lower wave is doing, it's a sign for you to recognize that somebody is not happy with something that's going on. It's always a reflection. So when you guys are all together, you are going to be kind of steady within your tribe unless something's not right within the tribe. You're going to have some highs and lows and swings, and then there's going to be even the happy and plummet. And so it's a level of just recognizing who has what, who brings what aspects together, and knowing that when you guys are all together, there is going to be emotional energy. And what can you do to really use that to empower and even up-level your creative process? And what's it going to show you that you're either moving closer to or away from?
Okay, and the last question that came in on from Facebook, and Kelsey says thank you, is from Kevin. He says, great info. Is a query. Is it true that as a projector, I need to talk out loud to myself and wait 29 days for the creative process to unfold and or to become more clear to me? And before you answer that, there was, because you had answered something like that similar, Elise had a comment on Facebook that you want to maybe, mental projectors do not need to wait a lunar cycle, the 29 days. But so I'm just wondering if you need to clarify about the talking out, that it's, because she was saying that it's reflectors that need to wait the 29 days. But that's...
Yes. And reflectors do, but there's this quality of a projector who only has this mental piece. They don't have an inner authority. They can't drop into their body to figure out. And we also don't want them stuck in their head trying to make decisions. So when you can take that mental energy and actually put it out into the universe, you might need more time, almost similarly to a lunar cycle, because you can now connect to other energies, all 64 within the month, to know, have I asked the right questions? Have I really processed through to get within my body? Maybe there's some activations that happen that give you new awareness. So that time is really important for a mental projector. And talking out loud is another piece, because you're getting it out. You're able to express and get the energy out of you, so it's not just stuck inside of your head. And so for Kevin, being a projector, all projectors, whatever authority, it just helps us to be able to talk it out, because we can see the world around us and we can guide everybody, but we can struggle with guiding ourselves. And so to talk out loud kind of signals, creates this auditory piece where now we're hearing it almost like it's outside of ourselves. And now we have a little bit more clarity about what to do, what's coming through, what awareness we're having, that gives us a little bit more inner guidance that we wouldn't normally have if we were just trying to process it inside ourselves. So hopefully that answers both, or is helpful.
I will keep you informed. You're all caught up with. Okay.
Awesome.
There was nope, that's it.
Okay.
So,
perfect. Well, great questions. Thank you for asking all of your questions, everybody. And so just this last piece for, why is this important to really recognize your choice in the creative process? And it's important because if you don't see the choice, you can't make the choice. And making the choice is going to help you to be in the flow with the universe and to be on the right path and being able to share your value and create from that place. Because if you get, for example, if you get the creative nudge, but you don't make a choice, that nudge disappears. And it might come back around. It might come back and get louder as we get older. But it's this level of, we want to be able to express. And I want you to be able to know that your creative and your value isn't lost. But when you can make that choice, you can actually start the process that much faster. And so that's why even in my financially centered class, I'll be talking about more. We're going to focus more on recognizing your choice and then understanding the centers as it applies to making financial decisions in your life too. So this last key, this is key number 3, and I have live more simply and with intention. And this is the piece where, we've been dancing with value in the creative side. There's always this level of we get to choose happiness, and it comes from who we are, not what you have or don't have. And in our material world, there's this scarcity mindset around, well, if I don't have this, or there's not enough, and there's not enough to go around. And it's very much this competition-based kind of mentality. So I want you to remember that material items do not define you. You define you. Because if you're creating your purpose and you're recognizing your choice, you now already have kind of pushed aside some of the conditioning. You can really align with who you are and what feels right with you. And that's starting to simplify what's going on in your world. When you're collaborating with the world instead of competing with it, now you're living more simply. And sometimes we feel judgment and guilt and what if I'm not doing it right? And what if nobody likes me and they don't like my value or see my value? Well, sometimes it's because they aren't aware. They can't see it themselves yet. They're not in the same vibrational plane that you're at. And they're working towards it, or you can help them. You can help them to start to see that they also can create their purpose and that they have a choice. But living simply is more where you get to take your creativity and create more, but in a simplified way. So you can create the excitement and the fun and the freedom and all of the things that feel really, really like impossible, you can make happen. So it's this level of the reason why it's important for you to live simply is because when you have too much going on, especially in our world today, we're inundated with too much information, social media, just all kinds of information and different things. Then we have too much stress, and we're simply stressed. And so it's a level of when we can start to take out these stresses, the things that are stressing you out. So the competition, the comparing ourselves to others, trying to do instead of be who we're meant to be, and sharing and living our value from that place. Maybe we're taking on too many tasks, or we're trying to please everybody. We're living out of alignment. All of those are going to add to our stress. But when we can really simplify and have this intention And intention meaning we get to choose our story, we get to choose what we want to create, and we're doing it in a way that's focused and in alignment with what we want. Now we're pushing out the stress and we're living based on who we are. And that's where we can really open up our creativity and our value and know what we're worth, know what we're here to share and create in the world. So let's look real quick. I have the will center because this is where value lives in the chart. So in this will or heart center, we have value, we have service. We also have ego, resources, money, willpower, and this is a motor. This motorizes the throat for manifesting generators or manifestors. So it's a really big piece, and not everyone has this defined. So for those who do, there is this level of knowing what is valuable and knowing what value you're putting into the world. And for the people who have it undefined, they're constantly playing with this theme of what am I trying to prove and what is my value? But if you are creating or living your strategy according to your type, and you are following your authority, so you are creating your purpose, and you are recognizing that you have choice, and now you are living simply and really taking out all the stressors and all the stuff that just muddies the waters. Now you're going to already know your place. You're going to know your value. You're going to have created that. And that's what we need. That's what we need more of for each and every one of us, to literally be out there sharing what we're really good at. And not everybody does the same thing because we're all uniquely designed. And that's the cool part. That's the fun part, even with creating our value. Because when you meet new people, you can see it. You can just see it radiating when they're doing what they love and their life is simplified and they're not stuck in, the old stories that we're all working to rewrite. But even as we're rewriting, we get to still play with what is our value. What are we here to share with the world? Do we have any questions on this last piece?
Not that I've seen yet.
Okay.
I could probably come up with a couple for you if you'd like. So I will come up, this is for me. So what you're saying, it doesn't matter because on your slide, your last slide, you have the will center colored in. You're not saying that there's only value if you have that colored in. That's not it, right? If that's not, I do not have it defined.
No, everybody has everything in the chart, and it's this level of whether it's consistent or inconsistent. And the cool part is for everybody who has it open or undefined, you're here to become very wise about that energy. And so it's going to take practice and it takes time. But over time, you're going to understand what's really valuable. And you're going to know that what it feels like to have that energy and know how to use it wisely. Probably even more so than me who has it defined. And so that's the cool part of there's blessings in however our design is created in the chart. So whether it's undefined or defined, you do have value. Everybody has value. It's just the way you express it or the way that you get to that end point is a constant journey. And that's kind of the fun part of finding your value along the way.
Okay, Sharon asked a question on Zoom. She says, if those defined with value and those who are open to others' values are confronted with a world that is rewriting all values, how do we operate? The new world order is confusing to all: banking, commerce, business, society.
Yeah, I love that. This is where I go all the time. And even though I have 16 years plus experience and knowledge based on this financial industry and the accounting world, where I am is seeing how can I break free? How can I actually give my expertise in a new way that is suited for this new world, where it's not tied to this is how you have to operate and invest and all these things that I think are not necessarily true value. Because yes, there used to be more greed and corruption and other aspects. And you can see that there's a channel here that goes off to the spleen, which is fear-based. So fear has impacted our value for a long time. And I'm not okay with that. And that's the part that I have a hard time with, because I see more possibility. But when we've been living in a society that's been more scarcity mindset based, you can see how this has been impacting our values. So if you have it undefined, the cool part is you get to experience value in an unlimited way. You're not limited to just this one way of having value, and you can totally rewrite and help others. And for anyone who's defined with the will, we can still rewrite our stories. Even though we experience it consistently, we're not limited. We can still grow in the way we express, and whether we bring in more service or integrity or community or different aspects that really are going to help us to shift what value truly means. And this is where resources and money, we already see money shifting, money's changing. And it's always been this really big piece, but what would it be like to have more of an economy where it's not so driven based on money equals value? Because we are all human value. And there's a big piece where that's what I want you to recognize here, that we all have human potential, and that is worth way more than any dollar could buy.
We had a couple, and Sue really loved that, a couple of comment questions on Facebook, and then I'll come back to Sue's question. Elise again said, the idea that mental projectors need to wait a cycle of the moon is absolutely not correct, and it's creating huge misconceptions. And what she had commented earlier is that even though you're talking it out, and as a projector, maybe you can comment on, even though you're talking it out, it might not take the whole 29 days. You're not saying you have to wait the 29 days.
No.
That's just the 29 days. Let me see if I've got this correct on your, the 29 days was, it might take some projectors that, so that, you know, you get it to get full clarity, but not every, you can get clarity even in a minute talking, like right now what you and I are doing, right? If you talked it out correctly, it can cut, a mental projector could get clarity within a minute, but it might take some activations outside themselves, say the transit of the moon, that might help them get clarity as they're talking through. Is that correct?
Yeah, because there's just this level of everyone's different, and maybe you don't need a full 29 days, but maybe there is an energy that you need to activate something within you that just happens to be roughly towards the end of that cycle. You're just looking for ways to connect. And like I said, there's still a level of, if you already know what you want and where you want to go, your decision-making process is going to be that much faster. So for some people, they may be able to talk it out and be like, oh my gosh, this is it. But if it's a really big life-changing event, like moving from the United States to Europe, maybe that's a big deal. And who are you leaving behind? And there's so many other components and pieces to it that sometimes you might need to really just honor yourself and give yourself more time if that's what you need.
To be clear, a reflector has a 29-day cycle to make sure. Elise was asking, but why even bring the moon into the discussion for a mental projector, for projectors? I mean, it's mostly the ability to talk it out. Is that correct?
Correct. And the only reason I brought in the moon was because it's another way for you to potentially get to those other energies. And it's the fastest way for the transits to happen is through the moon. Okay.
And then Marlene on Facebook says, oh, it just went away. Karen usually defines the heart center or the heart chakra as more than just the will center, correct? It's, if you were doing the correspondence.
If we're looking at the heart chakra, we're looking at these two components. The identity here is part of the heart chakra. And so right now we're just looking at this other half, this piece of the will center.
And then the follow-on question on Zoom, Sue was saying, we have ages and stages. Is there much value in understanding this information early on in life? Or do we need to be ready to hear it?
I think it could be a level of both. I know if I had learned this earlier on, I wouldn't have spent most of my life thinking I was indecisive because I didn't understand the creative process that I had with the emotional wave. There's also a level of what are you, like you're saying, ready to hear. And sometimes maybe somebody tried to bring it in. And this is what I see sometimes even when people get human design readings. There's a level of, oh, this resonates, I want to get a reading. They get a reading, but they weren't quite ready to implement the information. Maybe they need more integration time. And so sometimes it's this level of months later, years later, all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, boom, something hits where that information gets called forth. And you remember, and now it makes sense. And now it's just kind of part of you, and maybe that helps you to want to learn more about human design and yourself.
I don't have any, but I guess with Marianne wants people to be clear, and I'm sure that on the clarity, projectors don't have to wait for the moon. It's their strategy to connect with their creativity or their knowingness, correct, is they need to talk it out. And and as they're talking it, they're internal, or they need to wait for their strategy, which is, it's a question on Facebook. I mean,
waiting for the recognition or the invitation. And remember, it depends on what their specific authority is. So not everybody's a mental projector. Not everybody has that no inner authority piece. So really you want to follow the strategy, wait for the invitation or recognition, and then that triggers, what do I want to decide about this invitation? Do I want to say yes? I don't know. Talking it out is going to help, even if you're emotional, even if you're self-projected, even if you're mental, even if you are none, even if you're splenic. It's that level of talking is just kind of like an extra layer that helps projectors. Similarly to sacral beings being able to ask themselves or have others ask yes/no questions.
And Elise is a member of the mental projector group. She says they've been having this discussion, and that time is important too. And I think you mentioned that with projectors too. That is a projector strategy, but for us mental projectors, it's about talking and hearing our frequency. And I think you mentioned that's that, when you the feeling of light and feeling, or, as you're in, it doesn't have anything to do with the time frame of the moon. It's a muscle, and the more we use it, the less time we need.
Yeah, you'll get really good at using it. That it'll become just more instantaneous. Maybe it'll take less and less time. And that comes with just being more in alignment with who you really are.
And now I'm going to, we had one, how about one more? And then
I'll wrap up. Okay.
Sue says, yes, I have the information come around a second time and been ready. I really want to bring many aspects of self-understanding to the education system, but then think it's not for me to do, or should they be looking for it? Does that make sense? Basically, I think it would help if they can't be looking for what they are unaware exists. Is it her place?
I'm a little confused, but I think what feels right for you, you might not be the doer. You could be a connector. You could be the thinker. There's different levels of the actions we take within a process. And if you're really good at the collaborating, then maybe you just pull people together and get the project started. Maybe you don't necessarily have to be the one to, change an education system, but you could still join other aspects of groups or ways to be able to collaborate to start just making things happen. I hopefully that makes sense.
And that's it.
Awesome.
For questions for right now.
Okay.
And I'm doing my timekeeper thing.
Okay. Well, I just have a couple real quick slides that I'm going to show you. So this is really important, and you can see with 3 keys to creating your value, as I kind of went on about over and over. Create your purpose, recognize your choice, because you have a choice in this creative process, and live more simply and with intention. And what I'm offering next Wednesday night, I have a financially centered class that I am teaching, and you can register for it at alanaheim.com. And in this class, it's a 2-hour class where we're literally going to go through the 9 energy centers, and I'm going to apply it as it relates to finance. So this is the really cool part, because I love to weave it in. And if you're creating value, there's this level of wanting to understand, well, how does it work in my life? How does it affect my money and my finances? And so we're going to look at the defined and undefined of each of these centers and how it applies to you. And so even if you can't jump on and join the call live for some reason, it will be recorded. And so when you register, you'll still have access to that. And the class is $47. And registration is going to close by Tuesday the 24th by midnight, and I'm on Pacific Standard Time. But I would love to work with you, and we can dive more into this value concept and understanding the centers, but also starting to apply a little bit of the financial world that I love to bring in. And you can sign up and join the class and register at alanaheim.com. So thanks again for letting me share with you this class, 3 Keys to Creating Your Value, and being here on the Quantum Alignment Show. And I really enjoyed all of your questions and getting to answer and kind of share what I do and who I am.
Well, thank you. It was very interesting. People are saying they've learned a lot.
Awesome.
Okay,
well, enjoy your weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.